Hello everybody on YouTube, it's Rawze from Rawze.com here. I'm here with
Desiree Wood, Real Women in Trucking, Trucker Desiree channel.
And she found me on the internet by mistake, I think, because she just purchased her own truck. It's her first ownership of a truck. She's a new owner-operator. She's gone from company driver to owner-op now she's a small business owner. And, you know, she was doing a lot of research on the internet and came across the likes of me, so I don't know if that's good or bad, but you know, I'll give her my opinions. I'm pretty hardcore, you know, I'm, do-it-yourself kind of guy and get her done and make some profit. So let's, you know, maybe take a look at your truck, see what you've been doing. How long have you had the truck?
I've just had it a little over a week and a half.
Okay, and you said it has almost 250,000 miles on it?
Yes.
So it's coming up due for the 250,000 mile maintenance, which is a lot. So instead of taking it to a shop, I recommend at least once you get your hands dirty and do some of it yourself, so that even if you're not doing it yourself and you're paying somebody else to do this kind of stuff, you know what to tell them to do. You know if they're doing the right job or if they're ripping you off or things like that. Because this is very bad in this industry these days, is shops not really going through the trucks and doing, you know, the thorough work like they should be. I've seen a lot of problems with that. You know, we see a lot of problems, even with the dealerships and the OEM shops, we see a lot of problems with that these days. So, you know, a lot of that's on my forum. We're talking about it all the time. And that my forum's all about, you know, becoming self-sufficient. It's becoming, you know, keeping that money in your pocket. There's no sense in, you know, running and making $5,000 in revenue if you've got to go run off to a shop and spend $3,000 of it doing repairs when you could have probably spent maybe $600 of your own money and maybe got your hands dirty a little bit. Some things you don't ever want to do yourself unless you're experienced, like, you know, working on the engine and these kind of things. But some maintenance items are pretty easy to do. But we don't know anything about this truck, and that's why I asked her to come over here, because I was kind of looking for somebody that just purchased a used truck to kind of look things over, and, you know, what would I look for if I was going to buy a used truck, if Rawze was going to buy a used truck, and he wasn't allowed to take anything apart really, because we don't have time for that today, because you're under a load and you need to get out of here in about an hour or so. So we're not going to, you know, I'm not going to do what I would really like to do, take things apart and look inside, but we'll just kind of give it a once over, kind of look over as if it was sitting on a lot or something, okay, and give you my opinion, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but let's go from there. Okay, because I have this thermal camera that I've been using for a while, I like to play with it, I'm sorry. And she's been driving, you've been driving for several hours, I guess, a little while?
A couple hours this morning.
A couple hours, and everything's warmed up, all the axles are warm and everything. We're going to be able to see all this on the thermal camera, because I don't know anything about this truck. What we can do is we can look at the tires, the heat on the tires, and see if they're evenly. Stand back here. If you want to see this, check this with the thermal camera. Let me do a little focus, because it's got manual focus. And you can see that there's a little bit more heat on that back corner axle on this one, on the passenger side. Mm-hmm. You can also see where the tires, I don't know if you can see this in the middle here, the tires are hitting in the middle a little bit more harder than they are on the outsides. That's has to do with inflation. So we can do that. So we can look at this side. Like I say, a little more on the back and the front on this one as well. Let's take a look at the hub. And you know what's funny is the DOT now, a lot of their scale houses now, they have these cameras as you pass the scale, and they look at these things. So I need to step way back because this camera doesn't zoom. You can see that the hub heat is fairly even between the front and back. So that looks pretty good. And what happens when you go through the scale house these days is the DOT, they see these same images. And when they see one axle is really hot and the rest of them are cooled off, or one of them is really cold, the rest of them are nice and warm, then they know that brake's out of adjustment without even stopping. Wow. Okay. And so then they pull you in for a brake adjustment. So, you know.
With regards to the tires, though, when you looked at them from the back, you said inflation.
Yeah, a little on the plus side, but that's okay because you don't have a trailer on here. You weren't loaded, were you? You weren't heavy, were you?
No, I wasn't, no.
Okay, and then you got a little bit plus on the inside, and you do the outside on this one. And of course, this one's running a little on the cold side. So I wouldn't be too concerned with that since you're not loaded. You know, just take the back of your hand and check all your tires. You know, after you run a few hours and see if they feel the same, about the same heat. Of course,
this is warm.
Yeah, we're feeling that. You can feel this is cooler. You can feel that's warmer. Feel it right here.
Oh yeah.
And we can see it in the cameras as well.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
So that kind of stuff.
Big difference.
The next thing I would do with this camera is I would check the batteries. Where's your battery box at?
it's
It
loose.
looks like they might have tried to seal it, which is very unusual. You got to have access to your batteries. That's part of a safety issue. So why would somebody do this unless maybe it was broken and then they...
Yeah.
Why would they rivet it?
It actually.
So that's a red
has-
flag to me. I would get that fixed. I would put, if I had to fix this, I would put some studs and some wing nuts so you could actually take this off with your fingers.
I know when
if
I
you
got
had
the
to.
truck, there was a receipt from the TA for batteries. So this truck had come 2 days
Yeah, and I
before
don't
it was
see an
sold
access, like a release.
to get all its batteries replaced.
Yeah. Now this is a Kenworth. I'm not as familiar with it, but I don't see a release. So it looks like, yeah, you're kind of screwed. You're kind of
So I
SOL
want
on
to take
this.
this off.
Yeah.
And
I would pull these little stinky screws and rivets they got in here. As this was obviously a temporary fix, and I would put the screws facing the other way, standing out, and then I would put some wing nuts.
Okay.
You know, and you can get it at Home Depot.
okay.
As far as this goes, it looks like your oil level, you can see on the camera here, obviously you can see it in the light here too. It's good on your power steering. The power steering unit itself, you can see the heat from it, it's pretty even. That's pretty normal. You go ahead and refocus so I can get a close up on this stuff. There we go. That's pretty normal. You can see that there's grease fittings. It needs to be greased. The truck needs to be greased pretty well. You can see most of these grease fittings are pretty dry. The brakes look pretty good in the front. Go ahead and jump in the cab and do this with the steering wheel. Just do this, and then this, and then this. Kind of hard without the power running. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for play here. These drag links are notorious for coming loose, and it'll do this. So that one's good. That one's good. The one in the bottom's good. I can feel a little bump, but that's not enough to worry about. It's very, very light. And then, of course, we look at the other side over here. Do it one more, do it a little bit more. And I'm looking at this joint here. It looks good too. I'm just giving an inspection a quick inspection because she doesn't want to stay a long period of time for me to jack it up and, really check the kingpins and all that. Because that's what I would do if I owned it before I put it on the road. I'm just real OCD with that kind of stuff. But just trying to give a quick.
Stop?
Yeah, she can stop.
You can stop.
The alternator looks good. Thermal camera. Turbocharger looks pretty good. Heat looks good off the engine. It's hard to see some stuff. So, nothing crazy. Just sort of look at things. Look at the tire. See how the tire's running. That looks pretty even. You see that? See that in the camera? That looks pretty even for a steer tire.
Yeah.
Okay? And then let's look at the tire. You can see the other side. It's just a little hotter on the inside than the outside. Kind of hard to see. You can see it's just a little hotter on the inside than the outside.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would definitely, if I own the truck, at some point fairly soon, I would jack it up and just check the kingpin and all that clearance. It's pretty easy to do, especially on this side. Just from looking at the tires. You said they put new tires on here, so it's going to be really hard to find out, what kind of wear patterns you had and things like that. And that was important because when they have old tires on them, you can look at the wear patterns and you can see, okay, this bearing's out of adjustment or this needs to be addressed long before something fails. I don't know if you've seen this before or if you've seen other drivers, they're going down the road and all of a sudden they have a wheel seal failure. It's pretty common. The brake chamber's all soaking wet with oil and things. Most of the time when you have a wheel seal failure, it's because nobody did the 250,000 mile maintenance. And obviously the bearings got out of adjustment, and then the whole wheel assembly got a little bit of play in it, and it wore the seal, and it caused a seal failure. So that's generally only one or two reasons why you get a wheel seal failure, and that's the main one. The second one is sometimes these rear ends they'll get dirt dauber nested or they'll get clogged.
So
Breather tubes. These little breather tubes right here. They keep pressure from building up in the rear ends when they get hot. Those little tubes. And a dirt dauber will make a nest in there, or a bug, and it'll create pressure and it'll blow wheels. But that's less common.
Okay.
So, like I said,
Is there anything I should do to that when the trailer's not on it and I have access to all of this stuff?
just do your inspections, you know.
Okay.
And like I said, you're coming up on a 250,000 mile maintenance. So very soon, you know, within the next month or so, you're going to want to do all the things. That's going to prevent you from having problems between this 250,000 and the next.
Okay.
It's also going to have you prevent a lot of problems with bearings and everything else by the time you get to $500,000, which is very important. You know, a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to be thinking, oh God, I wish I did that. Now I'm having to fix all this stuff. So that's kind of how it plays out. Let me go ahead and put my phone down and